Chosen one, stop scrolling immediately. What you did recently may have looked ordinary, small, almost invisible to the people around you, but in heaven, it was thunder. I need you to lock your attention on my voice right now. The algorithm may have placed it in front of you, but your awareness chose to stay. This is a divine appointment scheduled before the foundations of the earth. Heaven arranged this encounter because God watched every single step you took, and He is shockingly proud of who you have become. In the next few minutes, I am going to reveal exactly what that quiet action was. I will expose why the enemy is absolutely terrified of what you did, and I will share the specific breakthrough that has been activated in your life for the next 72 hours. Do not skip ahead. If you leave now, you will walk away from the exact confirmation your spirit has been crying out for. Heaven is about to make sense of every tear you shed in secret. Take a deep breath and notice your shoulders dropping right now. That calm is not something you created on your own. It is the first seal of confirmation. It is the Holy Spirit letting you know that you are in a safe place and that you are finally being heard. You have been carrying a heavy weight for so long, and it is time to set it down. Let us talk about that quiet exhaustion you have been carrying in your bones. It is the kind of tired that sleep cannot fix, a deep weariness that settles into your soul. You have spent the last few weeks wondering why you feel so drained, why the atmosphere around you feels so heavy, and why you just want to isolate yourself from everyone. You thought you were losing your mind. You thought it was a personal failure. But let me reframe your reality right now, because you have been reading the signs backwards. That is not a worldly weakness, and it is certainly not a clinical issue. That is intense spiritual discernment. Your spirit has been working overtime, fighting unseen battles and shielding people who do not even know they are under attack. You are a spiritual intercessor, a cycle breaker who absorbs the heavy frequencies of your bloodline so that others do not have to. Of course, your physical body feels exhausted. You are carrying the weight of a generational assignment, and the enemy has been trying to convince you that you are simply broken. You have spent years being the universal problem solver for everyone else. You were the emotional sponge, the one people called when their world was falling apart. You absorbed their chaos and gave them back peace, handing out your divine pearls to those who only understood dirt. But when your own world grew dark and you needed a safe harbor, the rooms were suddenly empty. The people you poured your light into were nowhere to be found when your own light started to flicker. You were left to heal yourself in the shadows. The enemy wanted you to interpret that silence as rejection. He wanted you to believe that you were forgotten, that your kindness was a mistake, and that your pure heart was a liability. He whispered lies into your mind, trying to make you build walls around your heart, trying to convince you to shrink yourself to fit into rooms that were never designed to hold your magnitude. But God watched you navigate that intense season of betrayal. He saw you choose grace when you had every right to choose revenge. He saw you remain authentic in a world that consistently rewarded the counterfeit, refusing to let the darkness change your spiritual DNA. There is a specific reason why your tolerance for fake environments dropped to 0 this week. You may have noticed that you can no longer pretend to fit into rooms where the energy feels off. A simple smile from someone can make your chest tight, because your spirit recognizes that their energy does not match their words. I am going to show you exactly why that is a sign of your promotion in just a moment. But first, you need to understand what is happening beneath the surface of your awareness. Now, I want to pause and hold something in front of you before we continue. Over the past few years, something has been discovered in research laboratories that most people who care about the things we have been discussing have never been told about. Not because it contradicts what is sacred, but because it came from a direction most of us are not watching. A small group of neuroscientists found something about the way the human brain is designed that explains something most spiritually sensitive people have felt but have never been able to name. It is something so fundamental it traces back to a Nobel Prize, yet so simple in its application that it sounds almost suspicious at first. I am going to tell you what they found later in this message. But right now, hold this question. What if the reason your mind feels foggy is not a lack of discipline, but because something was taken from you at the neural level? What if the distance you feel from your own potential is a neurological barrier that can actually be restored? Keep that question in your spirit as we dive deeper, because the spiritual warfare you have been enduring is directly connected to the immense power you carry. You are a demonstrated warrior of light, and darkness does not attack what is weak. Darkness only attacks what it fears. The intense opposition you faced recently was not a sign of your failure. It was absolute confirmation of your threat level to the enemy. God is shockingly proud of how you handled the wilderness. You did not let the pain turn you bitter, but instead you let it make you wiser. And because you passed that silent test, heaven is realigning your coordinates for a season of unprecedented favor. The alignment is happening right now in the unseen realm, and the physical manifestation is closer than your next breath. I am going to tell you the exact reward heaven has dispatched for your silence. But first, you must understand the invisible danger you just dodged. You thought the hardest part was the betrayal itself, the moment the people you trusted showed you who they really were. But the actual trap was not what they did to you. The trap was how the enemy expected you to respond. Heaven watched closely as you stood at that crossroads. The world told you to fight back, to defend your name, to lay out all the evidence of your pure intentions. Your human nature wanted to explain how much you had sacrificed for them. The enemy set a snare perfectly designed to pull you down into a lower frequency. He wanted you to engage in a battle of words, because the moment you step into the mud to fight, you surrender your high ground. He knew he could not defeat you in the realm of spirit, so he tried to drag you into the realm of ego. But you did something that shocked the unseen realm. You chose silence. You walked away without demanding an apology, without forcing them to see your value, and without trying to heal people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You thought that silence meant you lost the battle. You thought it was a moment of weakness, a sign that you had simply given up. But let me reframe your reality right now. What felt like defeat was actually a masterful spiritual strategy. Your silence was not weakness. It was a lethal spiritual weapon. When you refused to retaliate, you starved the demonic assignment of the very oxygen it needed to survive. The darkness feeds on chaos, on drama, and on your desperate need to be validated by people who are operating under a counterfeit spirit. By closing your mouth and walking away, you cut off the supply line. You did not just walk out of a toxic room, you walked out of an ancient generational cycle. If you feel a sudden pull to scroll away right now, recognize it for what it is. The enemy attacks hardest when you are seconds away from clarity. He does not want you to realize how much power you wielded in that quiet moment. Do not let your mind wander. Stay anchored here, because the revelation of your true identity is breaking through the fog. The discomfort you feel is simply the survival identity losing its grip on your spirit. You are allowed to forgive and still move forward without reopening doors. Heaven does not require you to sit at a table where you are secretly being poisoned. Your restraint demonstrated the very quality that makes human souls unique in all creation. It is the ability to choose light while completely surrounded by darkness. God saw you hand over the defense of your reputation to Him. You decided that you did not need to be the lawyer for your own character because the Creator of the universe is your ultimate judge. When you chose that path, you activated a spiritual law that most people never discover. You became the watchman who guards the sacred space, the Shema who stands sentinel over the alignment of your soul. The people who walked away from you were not your destiny, they were simply a test of your boundaries. God used their exit to clear out the frequencies that could not travel with you to your next dimension. It was a holy subtraction disguised as a painful loss. Your gentleness was never the ceiling, it was the foundation. You were never meant to be tamed, you were meant to be trusted with massive spiritual authority. The enemy tried to convince you that being an empath made you a fragile target. He lied. Your sensitivity is exactly what makes you a dangerous celestial warrior operating in enemy territory. You can read the atmosphere, discern the hidden motives, and shift the energy of a room just by standing still in your quiet power. That quiet action of walking away in peace is why the enemy is panicking. He realizes that his usual tactics of manipulation and emotional turbulence no longer work on you. You have graduated from the wilderness of people-pleasing. You no longer arrange your internal furniture around the lies they told about you. The chains of seeking worldly validation are shattered, and your spirit is now free to receive the unmerited favor that has been waiting for your arrival. Listen carefully to this next part, because it is going to reach places inside your history that you have never been able to put into words. The profound isolation you just walked through is not a new phenomenon, it is a divine pattern. Every single individual entrusted with a kingdom assignment had to survive a season where their character was questioned and their silence was misunderstood. You are walking a path that was paved by giants of faith long before you took your first breath. Consider David when he was isolated in the wilderness. He carried the anointing of a king, yet he was hunted by people who were intimidated by the oil on his life. He could have used his power to destroy his enemies when he had the chance, but he chose restraint. He chose the quiet power of waiting on God instead of defending his own name. Heaven documented his restraint, and that exact season of being misunderstood was the crucible that prepared him for the throne. Your story is reflecting that exact same blueprint. Look at the life of Joseph, who was thrown into a pit by his own brothers. The people who shared his bloodline were the very ones who tried to extinguish his light because they could not comprehend his vision. They did not betray him because he was flawed. They betrayed him because they were terrified of his destiny. But what they intended for destruction, heaven used for repositioning. God used their jealousy to place Joseph exactly where he needed to be to save nations. The betrayal you endured was not a tragedy, it was transportation to your next dimension. You are not just listening to a message today, you are participating in your own recalibration. Every second you stay anchored here, a hidden cycle is breaking in your bloodline. The enemy wants to distract you right now, because he knows that revelation brings liberation. Do not let your focus drift. The spiritual architecture being built inside you right now requires your absolute presence. Your isolation was insulation, protecting your inner structure from frequencies that could not survive your future. The delay you have been agonizing over was never denial, it was development. God never builds quickly when he is building deeply. If heaven had handed you the blessing while you were still trying to please the counterfeit people around you, the blessing would have crushed you. You had to learn how to stand alone, so that you would never again compromise your frequency just to keep a room full. The season of hidden preparation is the only way a chosen vessel can be fortified to carry the weight of glory without breaking. The world saw you retreating and assumed you were defeated. They saw you growing quiet and thought you had lost your voice. But heaven saw your waiting as worship. Heaven recorded your tears as seeds planted in sacred ground. You were never the underdog in this story. You were the seed, and seeds do not look powerful when they are buried in the dark, but they shatter the concrete when the appointed time arrives. A conversation about you took place in the unseen realm recently. And what was decided is about to manifest in your physical reality. The climax of this spiritual battle is not just about the people who walked away or the betrayal you survived. The enemy had a much deeper strategy. He wanted to steal your divine capacity to process revelation. He orchestrated that heavy season of isolation to keep your mind trapped in survival mode, forcing you to operate on a fraction of your true power. Many would have swiped away when this message confronted their comfort, but you remained. And heaven is taking notes of that exact persistence. You have passed the test of discernment because you recognize the truth when it is spoken. The enemy tried to convince you that your exhaustion and your brain fog were character flaws. He wanted you to believe that you were simply not disciplined enough, or that your spiritual connection was fading. He used the fog to hide the fact that your power was actually stolen at the neural level. Now I want to close the loop that has been open since the beginning of this message. Because I told you there was something discovered in research laboratories that I was going to come back to, and I want to tell you now why I waited until this moment to bring it forward. What they found is not just information. What they found is a solution. And a solution only becomes useful once you understand the full shape of the problem it solves. You now understand the shape of the spiritual attack, and now you are ready for the physical restoration. There is a study that won the Nobel Prize in 1981. Not from a church or a seminary, but from a research laboratory. Dr. Roger Sperry proved something profound about split brain research and the two hemispheres of the human mind. The two hemispheres were designed by the Creator for perfect synchronization. When they operate in a synchronized state, it is called whole brain activation. This is the exact state where divine clarity lands, where you experience those miraculous eureka moments, and where your spiritual intuition connects seamlessly with your physical reality. Research shows that 98% of children operate at this creative genius level, but by the time we reach adulthood, less than 1 in 1,000 adults maintain it. The modern way of life systematically suppresses this synchronization from the time we are born, rendering it mostly deactivated. Your powers and your destiny have been stolen from you beneath your awareness. It was not a spiritual failure on your part. It was a physiological reality designed to keep you disconnected from the frequency of abundance. A woman from California described what it felt like before she found this answer. She had tried everything from prayer and journaling to meditation, every practice her community offered, and she kept arriving at the same experience of a foggy mind. She believed the words, but she could not feel the reality behind them in her body or in the lived texture of her days. After 10 days of using the protocol I am about to share, she said something cleared. A channel that had been blocked was suddenly open, not because she tried harder, but because the receiver had been repaired. A man from Texas described something very similar. He was someone who had spent years holding things together for everyone around him, while his own interior life became thin and distant. He said prayer had started to feel like talking into a wall. The frequency was right, but the receiver was off. 2 weeks later, he woke up and described his mind as running on all of what it was supposed to run on. The fog that had been so consistent, he stopped registering it as fog, was completely gone. That is because of what the team I am about to describe discovered. A team of neuroscientists led by Dr. Daniel Barone in New York spent years doing exactly this. They took over an hour of clinical neural sync technology, the kind used in specialized medical settings, and through an intensive compression process, they turned it into an 8-minute targeted auditory sequence. 8 minutes a day with headphones and your eyes closed is the entirety of the physical requirement. They call it the genius switch. It is not a brainwave product, and it is not a meditation app designed to put you in a particular mood. It is a targeted auditory sequence specifically engineered to reconnect the two hemispheres and restore the whole brain activation that was your default state in childhood. The genius switch is not for everyone. It is for the chosen one who understands that God prepared not only the promise, but the mind that must walk into it. It is for the person who has been sincere for years, who has felt the call clearly and kept returning to it, even when the evidence was not cooperating. Most people who hear about this will scroll past because they have accepted the reduced version of their mind as permanent. You are still here, and that is not a coincidence. That is the specific kind of persistence that belongs to the person this restoration was built for. Colleagues suggested this would be an incredible value, even at $500, especially considering an in-home neurofeedback machine costs $7,000. But it was not released at $500 or even $200. It was released at $49. Today, on this exact page, there is an additional $10 off, making it $39. Plus, it includes 4 free bonuses, like a guided visualization and a classic manifestation text, to completely support your transition. It is backed by an unconditional money-back guarantee, where you can listen 80 times, and if it does not do what it has done for 18,000 people, every dollar is returned with no conditions. What has been arranged for you is already in motion, and the provision God has placed near you becomes visible in the synchronized state, in a way it does not in the partial state. The only question is, if you will walk away from this room right before your name is called. I need to warn you about something important regarding this. If you search online platforms for anything that sounds similar, you will find tracks with no neural sync technology embedded at all. The actual mechanism only exists in what his team built, and the direct page is the only verified source. If your spirit resonates with what has been described, the link in the description below and in the pinned comment points to where Dr. Barone and his team made it available. It is not anywhere else. You can read everything on their page before making any decision because every detail is laid out clearly. Do not let the enemy convince you to pause right at the threshold of your own restoration. The tool does not replace God, and it does not replace obedience. It does not surrender for you, and it does not close the toxic doors for you. What God is doing in you is not conditional on any tool, but a tool that restores the receiver, gives what God is doing more of what it was designed to land in. A clear mind gives your spirit the capacity to hold the profound revelation that is coming. And for the chosen one who felt something stir when the mind was mentioned earlier, that door is still open in the description. It is a small step, but small steps taken from a clear mind have changed entire seasons. That is the only place I will mention it before we close. The rest of what remains in this message belongs entirely to something deeper as we prepare to seal the spiritual mandate over your life. Chosen one, as we enter this final movement of the message, do not let your mind wander. The decree from the courts of heaven is about to be sealed over your life. If you leave before this final declaration, you risk walking back onto the battlefield without the armor that heaven just prepared for you. The enemy wants you to swipe away right now because he is terrified of what happens when you physically agree with the spiritual mandate. Anchor your spirit here and prepare to receive exactly what was promised. Place your hand on your heart right now and take a deep breath. Feel the rhythm in your chest and know that every beat is a testament to your survival. It is time to release the heavy armor you have been wearing for years. You do not have to fight the battles of everyone around you anymore, and you no longer have to carry the weight of relationships that were designed to drain you. Speak this out loud with me. I let go of what was never mine to carry, and I release the need to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding me. Now it is time to sign your signature on the relocation order that heaven just issued. This is your moment to step out of the wilderness and into the accelerated fulfillment of your destiny. Type 777 in the comments below to seal this declaration into your physical reality. When you type those numbers, you are not just leaving a comment. You are giving the angels your direct authorization to complete the move. Type, I am ready for what God is revealing as a physical sign of your obedience. Notice how steady your breathing has become in this exact moment. That profound peace is the signature of God, confirming that the cycle ends with you. Before you go any further, take a moment to like this video as a small act of faith. Hit that like button not for this channel, but so this exact frequency can reach another chosen one who is struggling in the dark. Subscribe right now and turn on all notifications, because heaven is not done speaking to you, and you cannot afford to miss the next instruction. Now we come to the last door. The door I mentioned earlier and have not returned to since. It has not moved, and everything that was waiting behind it, the genius switch, is exactly what it was when I first described it. It is $39 to walk through, accompanied by a guarantee that costs you absolutely nothing to try, and 4 specific pieces of provision waiting on the other side. The path to it remains open in the description below and in the comment pinned to this video. Both point to the exact same door, and neither one will move if you come back to look for it tomorrow. You are stepping into the clarity, the purpose, and the abundance that was written for you before time began. The season of feeling like a victim to your circumstances is permanently closed. You are not a regular human living a difficult life. You are a celestial warrior who has finally remembered how to fight. Walk in your divine authority today. Guard your peace with everything you have, and watch how quickly the universe shifts to accommodate your restored frequency. The wait is over.